Hello everyone, today we are taking a look at the FlyWoo FlyLens75 HD03. Yeah, we have another micro in the 75mm category with the DJI O3. So that means I'm using my goggles too, and if you have the DJI remote that comes with the Avata kit, the little gray one, you'll want to get this in the plug and play version, and hopefully S-Bus is set up within Betaflight so you can just bind it up and go. And even though I'm going to show you some of that faster, more aggressive indoor flight, I don't recommend that if you're just starting out. I recommend starting out outside, getting good and comfortable with the sticks, then lowering your camera angle on your first times inside, and then progress from there. In the moment, I don't have access to the full production website. They do offer this in a naked version. FlyWoo did say that for the slow, cruisy sort of flight, the naked version doesn't actually benefit you much flight time, 5 to 10 seconds more, maybe nothing depending upon your battery. There could be other versions of this available for, say, walk, snail, and analog, but right now I can't confirm that. So I'll put a link in the video description if you're looking for versions that are not DJI O3 based. It's super hard to see down in there, but the all-in-one flight controller is the Goku Versatile F405. It's 1 and 2S compatible with a 12 amp ESC, and it has the MPU 6000. USB port right on top here that is micro. Motors are the Robo 1003 14,800 kV, and the prop doesn't show a manufacturer name next to it, but I suspect it's an HQ prop just from the blade design. It is a 1609 and it is a quad bladed 40mm 1.5mm shaft prop. Of course, the version I have here is the DJI O3. You can see we have access to the USB-C port for activation as well as the SD card for additional storage. And the gray binding button is right there on the other side. It should come with 2 battery holders here that are 3D printed. Mine is the 750. You should also get one made for the 550. I did not get the 550, so I just cut a little piece of foam and I would slide that in while I did use 550 batteries. It weighs 82.6 grams. For the slower cruisy flight, I use this FlyWoo 750 milliamp 2S battery, which brings the weight up to 118.25 grams. For the faster and just the indoor flying, I used 550 milliamp 2S batteries. FlyWoo has their own. You can pick those up from the FlyWoo website. I also use this G&B. I do recommend the red, maybe the green label if it's a lot cheaper. With the red labeled 550, it weighs a little over 111.25 grams. And with the FlyWoo, it weighs just under 109 grams. Those weights are with the accessories, namely this 3D printed lens mount as well as the new foam pad. These are both available for the FlyLens75 as well. I will link those down in the video description. And even though it's a 75mm, I'm getting right around 81mm motor post to motor post. XT30 for your battery connection. And just like the FlyLens85, the camera mount has its own independent platform for vibration dampening. The prop protection feels fairly rigid this way, but it feels fairly flexible this way. We have an additional 3D mount back here to hold our antennas for the DJI O3. And I recommend zip tying the battery lead to this arm. That way, if you do have a battery ejection, it's not pulling on your flight controller. It pulls on the zip tie that we would attach to this arm. In the kit, you will also get a 1000 milliamp 2S battery holder, but I don't have any 2S 1000 milliamp batteries, so I didn't test that. We get an extra set of props. We get a baggie full of assorted screws and other sort of repair or lost items. An extra foam pad, a hex or Allen key, a teeny tiny little screwdriver. As always, we get a sheet on the DJI O3 air unit, and we get a 1-pager with a wire map for that Goku Versatile F405. We will take a quick peek at these accessories that they have available for the FlyLens75 and 85 after the flights. We also get a right angle USB cable. That's fairly unique. I don't think I've seen that before. It has a long nose on it. But this is for your DJI O3 VTX recording and activation. This is not for the flight controller. And last but not least, we get FlyWoo stickers. This is going to be our slow cruisy outside flight. This isn't really what you would necessarily want to use outside for slow cruisy flight. Even though it's in the Cinewhoop category, I think of this as a little bit of a hybrid category because this is so small, it's not going to handle wind all that well, and my location has generally always got some wind. I think I've noted it over the years that there's only been a handful of times over my fly days where I've actually noted the weather showing 0 wind, and even on those days, yeah, I can feel a slight breeze. There's Mr. Squirrel. We'll be seeing him probably a little bit later in the video. The winds on this particular day are only 8 miles an hour, so you're going to find sections of this where the flight is more smooth because that wind is not hitting the quad, or it's hitting it at a lesser degree. But when we get into the out open areas of the yard, it'll be impacting the smoothness of the video and thus the flight a little bit more. I am surprised, I will go ahead and tell you, that the prop protection held up in my inside flights. I did not fly it a lot aggressively inside, but I gave myself 3 batteries, and in the hopes I wouldn't break any sort of family stuff, you know, pictures and whatnot. Thankfully, I was able to do most of my crashing without damaging any of our family pictures or knickknacks or Christmas decorations that are up around the house. But as you can see there, as we start to fly through some of the winds and breeze, we'll get some jitters, some movement in our image. Of course, this is just like it with anything else with the DJI 3. If you get the plug and play unit, you should be able to bind it up to not only the goggles 2, which you want to do first, but the radio that comes with the Avata kit, the gray one. But you can also buy it with a TBS Crossfire receiver or Express LRS. I'm running Express LRS. It is worth noting that the flight controller is UART based, so you can put it into Wi-Fi mode and you can update it. It is running currently 3.3, and I didn't even bother updating the firmware to any minor versions. All I did was add my binding phrase and flew it with my favorite radio, which is the Radiomaster Zorro. Of course, the yard's looking pretty good. We still got some greenery. Unfortunately, this time of the year, our sun never gets real high, so we won't necessarily see the sun like directly overhead. So for best video testing, when I say that, I'm talking about micro vibrations. I don't see those classic micro vibrations to where you have some sort of camera mounting issue or you have some sort of micro vibrations that are getting from the motors into the video. But we do have that wind that's kind of giving us a general sort of movement in not only our image, but the quad itself. So that's playing a role. Of course, less wind is always going to be better when you're flying low weight quads, and this isn't necessarily a low weight whoop, but when you have anything in this sort of cinematic sort of style that has prop protection, wind has a negative impact, generally speaking, at some level. You know, the bigger the quad, the heavier the quad, the more wind it's likely to be able to handle very well. The smaller, the lighter, the less wind it needs in order to be able to fly smoothly. Again, this is on the FlyWoo 750 milliamp 2S battery. The flight time on this particular one is going to come in at 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I did test a couple of different other 550 batteries, mainly from G&B, and the slow cruisy flight came in on 550s around 3 minutes and 32 seconds. Just so you know, in the forthcoming flights, slow inside is going to come in at 3 minutes and 29 seconds, and the faster outside flight is going to come in at 2 minutes and 13 seconds. I want to get those different flight time datas out there because I know people skip around, and that's fine. You got to spend your time where you want to spend your time. But a lot of people in this particular category want to know about flight time and flight batteries. Of course, the largest battery that you can fly on this one I did not test because I just don't have any of those. I'm not actually certain who makes a 1000 milliamp 2S battery. I'm sure they're out there, and I would suspect G&B has some, but I've never gone looking for them. I think this is only the second time I've seen a quad that has a battery holder that's actually made for that 1000 milliamp 2S battery. Our flight has come down. It looks like I flew a touch long, but nope, the battery bounced back up. That's pretty normal. As our voltage goes down, it will come back up after we land and disarm. So 357 per cell, 4 minutes and 12 seconds on the flight. Perfectly happy with that. Let's move into our inside flight now, and I am going to turn the flight volume down some on this. We've already heard it outside, so I don't want to blow your ears out. It's not necessarily any louder than anything else we've seen inside, but it is worth noting that, you know, these make noise, and usually when it comes to the number of blades per prop, it has a different, not only sound, but sometimes it's actually less audible noise that comes from the prop. So that's something that you probably want to take note of in this particular case. We already, like I said, we already have the outdoor flight footage with the flight audio. The flight audio is not recorded on the DJI 3. I use a flight, well, I call it a flight camera. It's actually just a cell phone, and I sync that video recording that has the flight audio with our DVR recording. I believe I already mentioned it as I was narrating the first video, but again, if you skipped around, The VTX on the O3 has an unadulterated or Betaflight naked video recording that is in 4K, so if you do not need the Betaflight information on the screen of your recording, you can definitely get that by just pulling the video recording off of the VTX. The VTX has built-in storage, as well as the ability to record to an SD card for additional cheaper storage as well. If you didn't notice, this is the slow flight, just cruising around the indoor. You know, I have never done any sort of real estate fly-through, so I tend to follow my own typical paths around my house that I fly all sorts of whoops. I'm just doing it slower in this particular case. Sometimes I'm more cognizant of what I'm flying, and I try to do it what I think is more cinematic real estate sort of fly-through way by flying, you know, kind of head high, versus I traditionally like to stay low, and I like to stay fast. It has that sort of pod racer sort of feel to it that's I really enjoy. That's the thing that I've kind of always enjoyed. One of the things that I kind of go back to when it comes to FPV, the joy of flying low, slow, and fast. Not low, slow, and fast. Low and fast. That takes me back to Star Wars. And even though I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, it's one of the things that kind of harkens back to my childhood and the joy of FPV, especially when it comes to flying inside. Although I do like a good low fence pass outside as well. The price point on this is another thing that I'm not 100% certain on, but I would suspect that we are going to see this come in around somewhere between $350 and $400. You know, whenever we have the DJI O3, we're looking at, you know, somewhere around $240 right off the top for just that VTX and camera component. We've got some accessories included. This one that we didn't see originally in the FlyLens. Like I said previously, it does have the ability to be ordered with the naked version, which I think if you're going to fly this more aggressively, like I will be showing you and I already kind of teased, the naked version would probably be worth a slightly additional expense, but that's something that you have to weigh out yourself. It's not something that I can necessarily tell you it's going to be worth it because of your budget. Also, they're currently running a sale, as are just about all the companies. I'm seeing this at possibly a 10% off, so that could be affecting our price point. You might be able to save, yeah, $30, $40 by ordering it, you know, before Christmas, which might not give you much time. I'm not certain how long their Christmas sale is going to last, but that's something that you'll want to check out the FlyWoo website in order to get more details on. Of course, I will link that down in the video description down below. And you can see I've got that GepRC Turn LR40 up there because I was flying it on this same day. Our flight ended 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Flew at a touch longer battery at 3.42. Not terrible. It's going to come up to 3.43, but maybe 4 seconds less on the flight time overall. And now we've got our inside more aggressive or faster sort of flight style. Now, my style inside is definitely a racer sort of style. I've always kind of been that way. I think my style outside is still fairly a racing style, but over the years I've tried to work in more aerobatic maneuvers. I'm not great at that stuff by any stretch. I think my forte and my main joy just comes, like I've said previously in the video, I like to fly fast and low. But I gave myself a couple of batteries. I didn't really have a number on it. I probably should have set a number on it to fly aggressively inside. This is probably not the best option in order to fly fast inside, but it's something I definitely want to try. So if you're interested in having this sort of really small platform or small quad with the DJI O3, hopefully if it's available in HD0, walk, snail, and analog as well, that you will have this information, this visual experience in order to gauge whether it's for you or not. It's not going to be easy though. So just like I said again earlier in the video, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself a lot in this video. If you're new to FPV or you're just kind of getting started, I do recommend by always, regardless of quads, start outside. Get comfortable with the sticks. When you fly inside, even with a traditional whoop, it is challenging for most for the throttle management and the stick movements to be able to fly a full battery without crashing a bunch of times. Even myself, I would say 50 to 60% of my flights, regardless of quad inside, have at least one crash, if not multiple crash in them. It's pretty rare that I have a full unadulterated flight, especially with anything it's HD inside that doesn't at least have one crash. And I actually have been trying to show that more and more in the videos that I don't fly flawlessly inside every battery pack. I do crash, and I crash quite often, and I have come to realize that there is value in that, including that in these review videos, so that you get a better idea of how durable something is. You know, I can tell you that I had some crashes, but if I don't show them at all, especially the ones that are noteworthy, because it is kind of tedious to kind of dig through the DVR and pick out all the crashes, because it used to be when you crashed, you had to go get the quad, so you would end your DVR and you'd go get the quad and then fly again. Oh, and there's one crash.
Dang it.
Quick peek at the accessories. The foam pads, which they developed here recently, those are available 4 per pack. I do recommend them, especially if you're flying either one of these, or really anything with this sort of square, and it's got the naked DJI 03 down here, or light version you might call that. Little foam pad. It's hardly going to add any weight at all. It could save you, some damage to something. So I do recommend these if you have that case or scenario. They're also selling the camera naked standalone, so you can find that down in the video description, as well as these other accessories if you're looking for one in particular. This can save you substantial weight, especially in micros, or if you just happen to damage your camera, you can get this. Now, I thought that there was a serial number issue with these, but I don't know that to be the case, so you definitely need to kind of read the product description and make sure that, I think this will work, but there might be something on screen because of a serial mismatch or a serial registration or something like that with the DJI system. This would be another repair item for DJI 03s, especially if you've decased it yourself. The 03 unit connect cable. Not much more to say about that. And this is the 03 lens protector. Now, they do have instructions on their website about pinching this as you're securing it on. So you want to deform it, I think is actually what they say, but pinch it and then slide it onto your camera. You don't want to get too heavy-handed because you just generally don't want to get too heavy-handed. So squeeze it, make sure the lens is going inside all these little fingers out here, and then slide it on. And it weighs just a touch over a gram. Okay, now to compare the FlyLens75, which is one I really do like, and I will link not only this product, but my original review of this down in the video description versus this. I think it should be fairly apparent to, especially our veterans, our people who have flown a lot of different micros, that this is going to be my preference, mainly because it flies so well outside. This is 75 millimeters, so it's doable inside, more so than this, but it's also more limited in its overall flight capabilities in high performance scenarios than this is. And this can fly slow and smooth and flat. So you really have to weigh which one is for you based upon the size alone. Because this one, it's just a bigger prop. It's going to be able to fly more aggressively than a smaller prop quad. That's going to be the case across the board up to some point. But I will give this credit that it did fly pretty well inside, and I did find it very manageable. You saw the one crash I had there and up here in the screen. I will include a few others that I had inside after we get done with this segment. I think they're both pretty durable. I've had this and been flying this. You've actually seen this in a video or two other outside of its review video. And I was surprised that this held up to my crashes inside. Now, when I did crash inside, as you already saw, pretty much every hard crash that took me out of the air, there was some sort of power interruption. And this could be very specific to just this 03 unit. But the power interruption would make you lose the signal connection. So I would lose the video recording on the VTX, but I would still have the DVR, but it would stop on that last frame with the red all around it. And then it would reconnect by the time I walked to the quad. So it truly wasn't a power a breakage. It just was a power interruption or flux or something like that that would cause it to lose the image in the goggles temporarily. I did not experience that with this particular one. That's why I'm leaning towards it being something 03 specific. But if you're looking at these two quads, you kind of want to look at it as, where is your main flying space going to be? If it's going to be outside, definitely the FlyLens85. It can do everything the 75 can do except for squeezing through the same small spaces. If you're going to be flying inside, I think the 75 is going to be more suitable for more indoor environments. But if you're in a large industrial warehouse or something similar, I think the 85 would be better off, Again, it's going to be based upon largely size, but I really like flying this one outside. I would really like to see FlyWoo develop something without prop protection. And selfishly, I would like them to do that so that I can compare the 85 without prop protection to their design choice of an 85 with prop protection. So that it's selfishly, that's something I would love to test. But I think both of these in this category are pretty good. We've only seen one other quad come in with the 03 as well as 75 millimeter format, 40 millimeter props. I think this is better than the Newbie drone iteration. I think this is going to be far more durable. Our VTX is actually protected to a certain degree. I know it's still plastic. Again, I've crashed it. I haven't broken this plastic yet. The foam pad is a nice increase for when you come in and land. I haven't even broken the camera. My camera over here is naked. Haven't broken that one either. The frame's going to hold up fine. So again, it comes down to where's your primary flying space and which one is more size appropriate. Okay, hopefully that covers the comparison between these two for everyone, but if you do have any additional questions, please let me know. I'll try to clarify down in the comment section. I don't think I measured the carbon fiber thickness on this. Let me do that. Gonna have to measure it out here so that I can get a good square bite. That carbon fiber is 2 millimeters thick. Looks like our platform up here is probably, if I can even get a bite on it, is 1 millimeter thick. So that's the 2 bits of carbon fiber on this. In many regards, covering it to the comparison with the FlyLens85, I've kind of already covered everything else here. There isn't anything that I think I need to call out additionally. I think I already talked about the fact that I do like to always zip tie these battery leads down. So if we do have any battery ejection, you know, you're looking at 1/10 of a gram, the amount of zip tie that you're going to have down here. Zip tying this to an arm is going to save you the potential for some damage to your all-in-one flight controllers. All-in-one flight controllers prices are continued to go up, so we're seeing them at $70, $80, $90, $100 depending upon the all-in-one. I do want to hit it again. The receiver for XpressLRS is built into the board. I believe they do offer this in a crossfire version as well. There'll be probably other receiver protocol versions that you can probably get, but I'm not certain of that at this time. This product is supposed to launch in a couple of days, but due to everything else that I have going on with Christmas and getting ready for Christmas and work, that I'm recording this before the product launch, and hopefully in time to get this out about during the product launch, especially because the sale that they have going on may not last much after Christmas Day, if it at all. Oh, I can cover this. These twist and come out. Hopefully I can show this fairly well on camera. So they have that little T-style mount. I believe we first saw this on the Twig iterations from Racer X or X Racer. Brian, I think was his name. He then sold that to Beta FPV. I think he came up with this. That might not be entirely accurate, but it's the first place I kind of recall it. Getting it back on is obviously a little bit more of a struggle. Please don't break. There we go. Got it back on. And I like the fact that they toilet tank the battery. I call toilet tanking anytime the battery runs sideways across the quad. I like how that feels. It is a minor difference that I don't know that everybody does feel, but I like that. Even when it's a bottom-mounted battery, I just like to have the battery running across the quad rather than elongated. I think it also frees up that potential that if you have a battery mounted this way, you can use different sizes. Well, you can't use different sizes if you're going to be running up against your camera, but also if it does even fit, then if you have a battery ejection and you crashed forward, the battery then goes forward into your camera in some cases. Not necessarily this one, but, you know, it's one of the things I just think I need to mention as I talk about my bias towards toilet tanking the battery, which I do appreciate. You know, I did crash it as I was showing you there. Crashed mainly inside. I don't have anything noteworthy to even show you. Even the sponge pad here on the bottom isn't really damaged that I can tell, not even torn up. I did have not necessarily my typical number of flights. This time of year, I'm not able to fly outside quite as much as I'd like to because there's less sun. I can't fly after work. And then on the weekends when you have more time, the weather isn't always cooperating. And here, shortly after Thanksgiving, we got 7 inches of snow. So there's always that to deal with as well. And so that limits my number of flights. I think it's important to know across my videos, if you see them published over the classic US wintertime, that instead of getting 30, 40, 50 flights on a quad before I post review, it's probably only getting somewhere between 17 and 25 flights before I post a review. Still try to fly them quite a bit. I still make an effort to get really comfortable with them before I start posting the flight footage, and also, you know, with getting comfortable, we have crashes, so I end up posting those as well. But this held together remarkably well at this weight, especially flying it aggressively inside. I did not do that with the Newbie drone product, so I just didn't have any faith with the 03 mount that it was going to hold on to very many crashes at all. I broke 2 of the mounts just trying to put them on the Newbie drone version of this, so I think this is going to be more durable than that offering. Of course, we could see more 75mm 03 based quads come to market. I'm not aware of any of them at this time, but it's always possible. So I was pretty pleased, especially for my bias of being able to fly indoor like I like to with this quad. It held up to my crashes. It handled pretty well. It is a challenge to fly inside at this weight, as you might expect. Again, a little caution of safety for anyone that might be getting started, specifically with something like this. Inside, please start outside, get comfortable with your sticks, spend lots of time on the simulator. When you move inside, you're crashing into hard surfaces, as well as potentially damaging some of your own property, as well as the quad. It's just really not very forgiving inside. We just don't have the margin for error that we do when we're outside. So get comfortable in real life outside with small quads before you fly them inside. I would even say that holds true for traditional analog whoops that are 18, 20 grams. It's probably best to get started outside for them as well. Don't forget, most of our companies right now are offering sales. I know it's a tough time of year for budgets. We've got tax season is just around the corner. We've got Christmas time right on us now. But if you do have the budget and you're looking for this, or one of my favorites, the FlyLens75, might want to check out the FlyWoo website, as well as any of our resellers that might be holding this and selling this and giving us a little bit of a savings this time of year. 2 seconds away from the ending of recording the video, and yeah, phone rings. That's kind of the life of being on call all the time. But if you do have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise about the FlyLens75 HD03, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.